Video. 5, 4, 3.
And welcome, folks, to the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 TKA online at big1050.com. And, of course, live on the stream on the Michigan Insider on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And we always like to sit down with the man who makes the GOAT, the Michigan Athletic Department, Michigan Athletic Director Warde Manuel, who is back with us. Warde, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Sam. Really doing great. So good to be with you again.
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple of programs in the top 10 on the basketball side of things, a program in the top 25 on the football side of things, a hockey program nationally ranked. Pretty good to be heading the Michigan Athletic. I mean, I guess it's always good to be heading up the Michigan Athletic
It
Department.
actually is. Even it's a job that I love, obviously, and have a lot of passion for. But to what you just said about our teams and what they're doing on the court, on the ice, on the football field right now, it is just an amazing to watch our student athletes and see the preparation our coaches and staff put into it and see the success that they have. And so for me, these are, it's great. It's a great time. Should be happy for our fans, should be happy with where our teams and how they're performing and what they're doing. And so for me, it's a great day.
So interesting day for you in that a program that you used to run is playing the program that you run now.
Right.
And you got them both in the top 10, and I'm talking about the Michigan women's basketball team taking on the UConn women's basketball program. And it's interesting, and you can be the gauge. Gino Auriemma, he said, hey, this is the best team that we're going to face by far. Now, I don't know Gino Auriemma to know if he's just gassing Michigan up to kind of get them off guard, or if he's being real. I mean, him. Is he shooting the real, or is he just kind of throwing them off?
Well, Gino doesn't mince a lot of words, when it comes to basketball and his read on teams and the like. And I know he was impressed. He told me the same thing, that this team is really good, in terms of the way they play and what he's seen. So I told him when I was texting with him that, we're coming there to beat you. We're not coming there to play. And he knows my mentality and the way I approach it. But Kim has done an amazing job. Our student athletes, I mean, to watch them play, to see how they play together, Kim has talked about their connection to each other and how they play. I mean, we're number 6 in the country. It's the highest ranked our program has ever been. I don't think we've ever played UConn, in a game. Kim has played when she was a coach at St. John's in the Big East. They played a lot and famously stopped the winning streak at 99 when she was at St. John's. So she has experience against Gino. She knows his style of play. And I'm sure our student athletes, I'm sure our ladies will be very well prepared to take it on. And they've shown, particularly in the last game against the 2 games ago against Notre Dame, that they know how to perform against top talent. Last year, we took South Carolina early in an early tournament and to a close game. And so I'm looking forward to it. I've changed my plans to be able to go to Connecticut tonight to the game in person because our Maryland football game tomorrow is at 4, so it allowed me time to do both. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great atmosphere. It always is at Mohegan Sun and with Connecticut fans. I'm looking forward to seeing us perform and seeing us win.
Okay, man. And so, wow, that's a schedule. So you go into UConn and then you got
tomorrow morning. Yeah, fly to Maryland. So
okay.
Yeah, it's listen, man. I at first, I always usually during the fall, I really focus on getting the football. But we don't have anything playing with donors or anything on Friday night. But this is such a big game for our women's basketball program that I wanted to be there, for them. Kim, when I texted her yesterday that I was coming and changed my plans, she was, very happy that I was going to be there in person. And just to be there to highlight how big this is for our team, how proud I am for them. It's great to do. It's not like I need any accolades for doing it. It's something I want to do, to be there to support them and to watch in person as opposed to watching on the TV. So I'm excited about going back. I haven't been back to Connecticut for a game or anything in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to go back there because our women are playing UConn, but also just doing great and really support them.
Yeah, 2 basketball programs in the top 10. I'm interested though in your, just how you see your 2 young coaches in football and hockey responding in years where, whether it's fans or media, kind of look at these as kind of, I don't know if you want to call them pressure cooker years, but certainly it's a challenge to see how they were going to respond in these years. And both of them have their teams. You got a football team 8-2. You got a hockey team that is really ascending. So what about those 2 programs?
You know what, man? I think they are, obviously they're learning as they go, which is what young coaches do. Everybody starts somewhere, in terms of program. They happen to start at high level top programs in their sport. So the spotlight is on them immediately, right? In terms of how you do it. The comparisons are there, comparisons to Red and what Mel did, in comparison to with Sharon, what Jim just did. And he was a part of that. So he understood that. But I think they're growing. I think they're leading. I tell people all the time that you look at how a team continues to perform when they don't do well, when they don't have success after a loss. How does a team come back? When that's a key indicator of the leadership that's there amongst the head coach and assistant coaches to lead those teams in how they perform and do they continue to fight. I mean, think about Northwestern game, 5 turnovers. We didn't get a turnover. We ended up winning the game with a kick at the end with a kicker who had missed 2 kicks. And to see how the team reacted to him to lift him up, first time he ever had a game-winning field goal. Those are the moments. People don't understand how hard it is to win. They just think roll the football out, roll the basketball out, roll the puck, throw the puck on the ice, and we should win. Everything should be easy. It's not easy. As someone who competed in the Big Ten is a very tough conference in everything that we do. We always are going to face a team's best performance. That's what we get. Do they wish they would have performed better? Yes. But in the end, you find a way to win. That speaks to those kids. That speaks to the coaches and the team and the environment. And so I was proud because they could have folded. A lot of teams do. 5 turnovers? I mean, that's a lot, on the mentality. And then to see the way Bryce came back and the way he handled the situation, the throws he made on the final drive. I mean, it was just, I thought, spoke to their effort, their tenacity, their perseverance, their love for their teammates and the way they fought. And the same thing on the ice with Brandon. I mean, we did not have the year he had before. I mean, we had been to 3 final Frozen Fours the years before. And to not make the NCAA, he was, really used that as a motivation for him and the staff and the team. And so I'm proud of both of them and the way they're growing. Look, it doesn't matter. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. And so for people who think, you look at the coaches who are not coaching after this year, who had a lot of experience, who had a lot of hype, some of the coaches who got fired, all of a sudden they forgot how to coach. It's not just experience. It's a combination of a whole lot of things. And so I'm proud of both of them in how they've led those teams.
Yeah, I wonder how you, in a business where it's about the bottom line,
Sure.
wins and losses, championships, that's the ultimate measure
100%.
of success. And yet you also have to take into account the circumstances in college athletics these days, the volatility of rosters, how you manage that, teams and how young they are, like for instance, football, they're playing like 6 freshmen on offense.
Yeah.
Do you look at those things, or how much do you take those things into account when you are assessing, when you are evaluating coaches?
Oh, I take it in a great deal. I mean, it's about understanding where that team is, how it's being built, building it for success this year and success in the future, and how do you drive that success. And all of that comes into play, Sam. All of it comes into play in terms of how I assess, how I evaluate where the programs are and where they're going, and to make sure that it's not just, for me, obviously I've made changes in programs, before, but it's not just an assessment of, one thing, not just an assessment of, oh, it's just wins and losses. If that was the case in 2020, when everybody wanted me to let Jim go, I would have. We didn't have a great year. But that wasn't just the assessment. The assessment has got to be more complete than that to understand the direction and the belief and the way the program is going. It can't be, and it won't be for me, just based on we lost the game. We lost more games than I wanted us to lose. The team works hard. Everybody who's mad, trust me, the team and the coaches have poured themselves into a week, and if they have a bye week, 2 weeks of preparation. Nobody is more angry after a loss or disappointed even in a win when you have a bad performance than those members of that team. And so that is the context, that you can assess it, but it can't just be, did we win by enough, or how many did we lose, and then make a decision all the time. You constantly are changing if you do that, to me.
Mm-hmm. So question on football. Last time you were here, it was on the heels of the decision from the NCAA, a decision that you said you were going to appeal.
Yeah.
You since made the decision to rescind the appeal, or drop the appeal. What went into that? Why the decision to drop the appeal?
It was an internal discussion with the university, and an assessment of the potential outcomes of the appeal. And it really came down to, did our attorneys believe that, based on how the appeal process worked and the level of appeal that you would have to have, could it happen? Could we win it? The NCAA, changed the process, and the appeal process comes down to, would any reasonable person decide that the penalty that was put forth was unreasonable, basically, wasn't what it should be. Any reasonable person, or a reasonable decision. So
reasonable according to whom? According to the NCAA?
Yeah.
So they determine the punishment, and then they determine the appeal. They determine what's reasonable.
Right. So my issue, and look, this has been going on for 2 years. The appeal process would have taken another 6 to 9 months to go forward. At a certain point, it's you're ready to move on, for our coaches, for our student athletes, for our university to move on. But the penalty was outrageous for the value that they put on it, to say, we're going to take away the revenue from postseason as opposed to giving you a postseason ban. And college athletics is changing. No other league decides to take out a program from postseason. We need to just, as I said to you, I think on this show before, we need to take that out of what we think about as punishments. But also we need to be more realistic. I mean, the penalty that we receive is going to be over $30 million. And in that particular case, we're going to find a way to deal with it. But that would bankrupt a lot of programs at that level. And you have to ask yourself why. At this time, given all the changes, they're doing this. And to me, it's because they also need revenue. So they put this penalty this high. They make it, this rule is so valuable to the NCAA that Division and 2 and 3 don't even have the rule. This rule was almost overturned.
Right.
64% of the people voted that this rule should not even be in place where you could do in-person scouting. Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna make this caveat so people understand. We shouldn't have been anywhere close to this. We shouldn't have done any of this. It is a rule. We shouldn't have done it. That being said, don't make it appear as if this rule is so important to what we do that in-person scouting. Here's the other thing. In postseason, you can do in-person scouting.
Okay, I hear everything you said. Ward, I shouldn't drive 85 in a 70. Okay, I get what you're saying. Give me my ticket. I shouldn't go to prison. The punishment should fit the crime.
Correct.
They set up, to me, a sham process. You gave me a punishment. You judge, jury, and executioner, and then there's a sham appeal process. And so my question then is there not any recourse? I think I asked this before, but now that the process is basically done, I find myself revisiting the question, saying, is there not any sort of arbitration? Is there not a way to go outside of governance and to say, okay, I'm not being treated fairly. They rendered a punishment. There's an appeal that they're not going to treat fairly. So is there some way I can go outside of this process to maybe get some fair treatment?
Listen, we assessed all of that, Sam. And ultimately the decision was made to not appeal. I was really proactive in my desire to want to appeal it. Mm-hmm. But I understand why, as a university, we made the decision to not appeal, as for the factors that I said earlier. But it is a process that I don't ever want to go through again, but it's a flawed process.
Basically, you're saying, so the lawyers told you if you were to sue, you probably would lose if you were to sue. In a court.
It's kind of like it's a very, very, very slim margin, and it's the line from that movie. So you say, "I've got a chance." And but again, the decision, and I understand and support the decision in the end, was made to move forward, and that's mm-hmm. what we do. But I've said to my colleagues, just be aware. Mm-hmm. Just be aware of what could happen if you find yourself in this situation, in a situation where you have to go in front of this committee. The process is not fair, mm-hmm. in my opinion. And because of that, they'll come back. And they're good people at the NCAA. I'm not this is no knock on the individual people. I've known them for a long time. I've served on many NCAA committees in my time, but the process they've set up is the part, and that you know, we just need to understand what could happen to institutions when you go in front of a process that, in my opinion, is not a fair, balanced process.
You know, it goes around, comes around. You know, everybody comes before that committee at some point. You know, so
yeah,
you know, we'll see. Want to come back around, Ms. How we looking as far as the break is concerned? We just go through, just go right on through. So, the big story in college sports right now is not just a Michigan story, not just a Big Ten story. Is this story about private equity, the potential for a deal with a Big Ten conference, a deal that has since been paused at the basically at the at Michigan's because of Michigan's dissent.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of things to seek clarity on as we enter this discussion for UC investments, as we talk about a $2.4 billion deal. I've heard it be described as a pension fund. Is it proper to call it a private equity group? Because I want to be defining the terms right. So let's start there. Is it proper to call it private equity?
No, similar, but they're not private equity in terms of the way they manage their investments are not like private equity.
Okay.
Private equity wants more of a 5 to 7 year, in general, term where they have investors who give them money to invest for a return in 5 to 7 years. So they're fiduciaries to people who invest in that particular fund of money. And the turnaround is shorter. Pension funds invest for longer term. I mean, obviously they have thousands of in the Cal pension fund, the system, thousands of staff and faculty and people who they are responsible to provide a pension for once they retire.
Okay.
So the investment there is longer term, and because of that, there's not a need and a desire to say, I'm only going to invest in things that give me, 12, 15, 20% return in a 5 to 7 year period. That's why they said they would hold this for 15 years because they have time. The Cal Pension Fund has been around for almost, I believe, close to 100 years.
Okay.
Right. So this is not something where a private equity will put together a fund to invest in sports.
I got you. Okay.
And then you get money returned.
There's that's that BA from Michigan talking. I got see, but that's why I ask you. That's why I ask you the question because I, things that I admit I didn't quite understand coming in, but I have biases.
Yeah, I got it.
As we enter this discussion,
Okay.
I admit that coming. I got trust issues that I admit coming in. So I'm laying that out. I got
trust issues too.
I got trust issues with the rest of the Big Ten, right? But I don't have trust issues as it stands as far as even if it was private equity. I'm not one of those people that feels like private equity coming into college sports is this, oh my God, private money coming in is going to distort what college sports are. Man, private money has been in sport. My opinion, private money's been in sports forever. Maybe the strings attached to that money has been more informal. Mm-hmm. It's going to be more formal with this, but there's always been private money in sports. To me, it's about the terms. What are the terms? And so now we get into this deal. I think when you look at the terms that we've seen, it feels like these terms, 20 years, the span that would seem to serve a lot of the other schools, their needs to a greater degree, as it's been described, to a greater degree than it does Michigan, at least the way it's been described. That kind of rankles and ruffles the feathers of a lot of Michigan fans. And that's why when you see some of the dissent that has been written about, you see a lot of Michigan fans saying, okay, yeah, I want to see this. I want to see this paused. So explain to me, Ward, why sit down with a group who was willing to say, hey, we're willing to go ahead even if Michigan doesn't want to move forward? Why continue the discussion when you have a group that was willing to say, we're willing to continue the discussion without them?
First and foremost, let me make something clear to you and to our fans. Michigan is going to do what Michigan does. We're going to make the best decisions for Michigan, first and foremost, and that's never going to change, ever. So I agree with Regent Bernstein in what he said. The other aspect of this, Sam, is that we're in one of the two most powerful conferences in college sports, and we have a rich history. We founded this conference 129 years ago. So people talk about, 20 years. Well, we expect that we will be around and we will be one of the top brands, the top programs in college sports for another 129 years. So from my standpoint, it is a understanding of setting up Michigan's future within the Big Ten as we continue to move, forward. Now, how that's done and what's done, it's all to be determined. This was an idea. We always talk about how do we increase revenue? What are the ideas that we have to generate revenue and to do things so that we can be better in the longer term? So, look, I've had my disagreements both publicly and privately with Tony Petitti. But Tony is, in this sense, being vilified in a way that I think is wrong, not by our people, I think, nationally, because he brings ideas to the table that are different. We shouldn't be vilifying people for bringing different ideas. That's where we need to be. We need to think through ideas. Now, we pause it, which is fine, but he's brought an idea to the table for 18 institutions. 16 of them wanted to do it. Some had questions. I know my colleagues at Ohio State also had significant questions about the deal from a governance standpoint. But in the sense, this is what we should be asking our commissioner to do. How do we think differently about the future of what we do? And so I give him credit and applaud him for bringing something to the table that is different in college. But to your point, this is where professional sports are going. And guess what? College sports are changing. We're looking more and more. Let's just cut to the chase. College sports is professional in many, many senses. In terms of the finances behind it and how we do things. And we, Michigan, need to continue to grow and to look at ways to generate revenue to support our programs. We have 29 programs. In the last 10 years, 23 of our teams have won Big Ten championships. 3 have won national championships. We want to continue that level of success, but I also recognize I can't go just on the backs of our fans and increase ticket prices over and over at a high rate so that all of our fans just are the ones who are paying. They were asking me to be creative, think out of the box. How can we bring in more resources to support the success of the teams and also continue to perform and do well as our student athletes do academically and athletically? That's important to Michigan. And so in this sense, ideas are going to come and different things are going to come to the table in these times that haven't had to come in the other 129 years of our existence in the Big Ten. And so we'll continue to look at it. We'll continue to explore different ways of doing things. Our board is committed to that. And I think in general, the discussion and the outcomes can potentially be better, because now it's in our thinking of how to move forward and be better in these times. Now, people all say, yeah, things are changing so fast, why would Michigan lock in? And I think, one of the things we also have to look at is that this is a very strong conference that we're in. Where else are we going to go? What else are we going to do? People don't like private equity, and they say, well, but it could have a super league. I've talked to many in the super league, good people, all private equity supported, 100% private equity supported, which, again, is another idea. It's another way of looking at it. It's another way of doing things. But here's the thing that people need to understand that we will not allow, and it wasn't in the deal. There is no local controls. They can't tell us we have to have more than 4 night games in our schedule. They can't tell us we need to advertise in Michigan Stadium if we don't want to. If we choose to, we will. They can't tell us what teams we have to have and what teams we have to get rid of. They can't tell us any of those things, Sam. They can't not control anything locally. We will never get into a deal ever that gives people outside of Michigan control of what Michigan does. That was not a part of the deal. That's been discussed, and people have asked me questions, and I just want to make sure people understand that this is not a part of controlling Michigan or other institutions. This was simply, in terms of looking at this deal, a way of investing in the Big Ten and then sharing in the revenue that comes out of that based on the investment. Mm-hmm. That's what this deal was about.
Yeah. So as I looked at it, and I saw some of the language that say, "Hey, I don't want private equity to come in and can have control." Yep. And hey, if private equity, they wouldn't be making this deal if they weren't going to make money. Of course, none of that moved me. Yeah. All right. So yeah. I hear you making these arguments, and maybe you're talking to fans.
I'm talking in general.
Yeah, talking in general. Yeah. Some of these arguments. So of course they're gonna make money. Like you guys have a deal with Learfield IMG, mm-hmm. where they control many of your
assets,
media assets, yeah. right? They could have a percentage mm-hmm. that they get, right? So I know that it's not the same, mm-hmm. but in a sense, there's a media agreement where they have some of your media assets. You have, an arrangement, that where, you have a concept where when you talk about, I'll give you an example, that they have a degree of control that I don't know if fans know. Ira is familiar with this story, but from a content perspective, we were talking about a podcast a few years ago with Coach Harbaugh, and he couldn't talk about Michigan football on his own program. Yeah. He could only talk about that in Michigan programming. For instance, my point in mentioning that is there are arrangements that you have with entities that control financial aspects of Michigan athletics, of Michigan media assets, that that when you talk about this arrangement that you're talking about with private equity, I I'm comfortable with the notion that maybe a lot of fans aren't comfortable with. That's fine with me. When you talk about some of the other things that the other institutions are talking about, what I'm not fine with is them having the same amount of say when it comes to the direction in the future. So what do I mean by that? Voting power as far as the direction in the future. They were prepared to go ahead with this deal without Michigan, Ward. They were prepared to vote on the deal without Michigan participating. So whether or not Michigan was okay with the deal wasn't consequential to them. I'm not fine with that.
Yeah,
as a supporter.
Listen, I'm not crazy about this idea that people believe that they can move forward without Michigan and therefore in some way, shape, or form hurt us. If they made that decision, then we had decisions to make. Meaning, then we have decisions we need to make about where we are and what we're going to do. Nobody here was scared of that. Nobody.
So
And I want you to understand and our fans to understand that is the stance that we took and to understand we are not moved as an institution. I'm not moved as an AD by this stance that, well, we'll do this without you and we can move forward. The reality is everybody in the end wanted to make sure that we move forward together. Ultimately is where they got.
Okay, so that's the here and now. But let's say for the sake of argument that the deal that you made it, that the Big Ten agrees to extend the grant of rights, the 2046. And the financial arrangement allows for Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State to get this this arrangement where you get a larger portion, which is something that a lot of us have been talking about for a while, that schools who bring in a lion's share of the revenue should realize more of that revenue.
Correct.
That makes sense. But when it comes to when it comes to voting power, as far as direction and what you're going to do as far as like this, the voting power, as far as what we're going to do as far as making decisions about the finances and how we're going to invest and what financial decisions we're going to make, to say that all the schools making those decisions have the same amount of say, to me, that doesn't quite sit right. That doesn't quite sit right to say that I could be dictated to if I'm Michigan, because that's what is going to be written into or hardened by this rule. Even if we all came together and we all said kumbaya, we all came together and we all agreed on this particular deal. Once we move past this particular deal, down the line, they could all come together and vote against me. In addition with UC Investments, who will have voting power down the line. That's what would give me pause. That if the 18 schools or the 17 schools and UC Investments decided that, hey, they wanted to do something and I didn't, I'm out of luck.
Yeah, so you referenced a couple of things. One of the things you referenced in terms of Learfield, that was what we put in that and allowed them to have oversight of was negotiated by us.
Okay.
Meaning we had a coaches show. So we told them as a part of this deal, we'll give you a coach's show. So the idea was that with Jim and his talk show, which I was on once with him and his father in the podcast, was something that he wanted to do on the side, but we had already told Learfield and negotiated and said, yeah, this will be a part of this deal. You will have a coaches show where our coaches will sit and talk to the media in the interviews with John Jansen and those kind of things to be there. So that was the
so that's why they were able to come in and say, you can't talk about Michigan football.
Because we had given them the rights to do it. Similarly, we had not really finalized any of the governance structure of this deal. I mean, it was talked about, but to do things that would solidify how, in particular, Michigan and Ohio State was a part of the governance structure of the conference and our involvement in that, Sam. So I 100% agree with you from the standpoint that we need to make sure we're protected in this deal from a governance perspective. But that wasn't finalized because the initial idea was to look at the structure of the deal and do we want to have UC Investments come in as a partner. On the other side of that, this is really about Big Ten enterprises, the financial side of it, the corporate sponsorship, naming of a corporate sponsor to name the Big Ten football championship or the Big Ten basketball championships or other things. So it's all business related to that. But even in that structure, what is the relationship there? They would have had a non-controlling voting.
Yeah,
where they could be outvoted. They could make an idea, they could be outvoted. Where's Michigan? Where's Ohio State in that structure of who votes for those kind of things? Those things are all not solidified. But I want to assure you, it is on our minds to make sure that we have a say there as well because of who we are, our brand, what it means to the Big Ten, that we have a voice around those tables when decisions are made is really a key important to us in doing this deal or in the future of the Big Ten as we think about how we move forward within the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think that to me is
it's critical.
That's the whole.
It's critical.
That's the whole story. I'm
I
less
agree.
concerned personally about the control that UC Investments would exert. I think it's nominal.
Yeah, it is
in the grand scheme of things.
It is.
It's the issue would be the power they would exert in concert with the rest of the league. And the rest of the league, how much of a how much of a partner, I'm not putting, this is me talking, not you. I always say that, but how much of a partner,
they can hear you, by the way.
Right. How much of a partner is the rest of the league really with Michigan?
I want this to be clear. The athletic directors, and I think the presidents from the meetings I'm in, realize and recognize the value that Michigan and Ohio State bring to the league, and that they respect that, they understand that, and they want Michigan and Ohio State to remain. Nobody's trying to push us out in taking this stance, but the voting mechanism and the way things are set up needs to change as it relates to this. Because one of the things and one of the concerns, and I agree with 100% with our regions, is that this should be, if we do something like this, if we ever agree to do something like this, it should be a one-time thing. This is not an opportunity to say, well, we need money, we're going to sell some more. So there are protections that we want in this agreement if we go down this road, and that have been already discussed, about ways to change the voting mechanism, to change how we do it, to change the reality of this is not something we're doing. It's a one-time infusion, a one-time bringing somebody in as a partner, not a mechanism for us to continue to sell parts of the Big Ten or to bring in partners. Even if you say, I mean, we don't have anything to sell. I mean, if I don't, it's not like I have an ownership right now in my hand and I can go out to schools and shop it around. But the idea of bringing somebody in because they're going to infuse some cash as a part of coming in needs to be considered a one-time thing that never, ever happens again, or there are issues that is going to cause for the conference because, we can make changes.
Here, and you may not be in position to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
All right. You usually do. I wish I knew some of your questions before.
Yeah, the financial arrangement, I think, was appropriate for the reasons that we said.
Yep.
The schools bringing in the majority of the revenue should realize the majority of the revenue. It's proportionate.
Yeah.
So why not have a voting arrangement that was proportionate as it relates to the financial issues? Is that a part of the discussion? I mean, if you look at the college football playoff representation, for instance, if you see how the Big Ten and the SEC are represented in that arrangement, there is sort of a proportionate representation.
Financially is proportionate. On the committee, it's balanced. Financially is proportionate, but they do have a bigger voice in the room. And I assure our fans, I do speak up in these meetings about, and my voice is heard on issues as it relates to the governance of this conference. What we have to get to is making sure as we move forward that is done on the different committees and the different structures that we have in place. It requires us, me and my staff and the president, to do more, but that's okay. I'm willing to do that work and willing to serve in a capacity that ensures the direction of this conference is in the direction and the vision that Michigan sitting around the table has, and that we can move this conference forward in a way that really supports and understands what Michigan, wants to do and has shown we are capable of supporting the rest of the league with what we do and how we do it. And so I just, that is something that is really important in this as it relates to how we govern and how we move forward. And so it's not just, it has never been just about the finances for Michigan. This is a bigger issue for Michigan than just, well, what do we get financially? It is also about how we move forward and how voices are heard in the committees that in structures that sort of make the decisions about the direction of the conference and what we're going to do. And so in that, I want to assure you and our fans that is something that is on our mind, and it is front and center. It's just not about the money. If it was just about the money, we would have said, take the deal.
Right.
It's not just about the money. It's about the total the total package, the total deal wrapped around this.
Right. So I mean, they've already made some financial concessions, and clearly willing to talk more.
Sure.
So let's see.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation. Yeah, we'll continue the conversation.
All right. Well, you got some places to go, people to see, some traveling to do. So we appreciate
some wins to get.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule.
No, it's always good. Listen, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and to everybody and their family. Have a happy Thanksgiving. That's the key to life to me. Is Thanksgiving is a great representation of what's important in life. Getting together with family and friends and being thankful. That I'm thankful to be here representing Michigan and leading this great department, because we have great student athletes and great coaches and staff. But in that sense, I want our fans to understand how much I appreciate y'all and what you bring to the table for us. We are Michigan because of our fans and because of our student athletes and because of our coaches and staff and faculty and leadership and our regents and all of our alums. And that's what makes us powerful. And to be in a conference that's powerful with other institutions that are successful elevates our brand, elevates us. You know, this is a very important conversation that will continue about our future and how we, Michigan, continue the great success that we've had over all of these years.
All right, appreciate it. That's going to do it for us, folks. Appreciate your time, Ward. We'll see y'all on Monday. Thanks a lot for watching and listening.
Go Blue.
We'll see you again on the next edition of the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTK, online at thebig1050.com.